the second edition on our brand new Tasmanian Devil Channel. I'm John Hamilton, and we're at the Tasmanian Devil Unzoo in southeast Tasmania. Now, we've had a couple of queries from the other side of the world, just wondering where Tasmania is. So I think we better show you. I've got the Times Atlas here, and here's the world. And over here we have Africa, Europe, Asia, and Australia down here. Let's have a closer look. This is southeastern Australia. There's Sydney, Melbourne, and the island of Tasmania right down the bottom. And we're right at the bottom of Tasmania, here in a little area called Tasman Peninsula in the southeast. It's a truly spectacular area with fantastic coastlines, hills, forests, rainforest, and the last truly safe natural wild population of Tasmanian devils left anywhere in the world. And our project here is to make sure it stays that way, because devils are suffering, as you may understand, from a contagious disease, and these isolated devils are truly precious. Now, at our Unzoo, we have much more than Tasmanian devils. We have lots and lots of wild animals around the place, and we wander around there every day, many times in fact. The other day, Maggie and I were going for a bit of a wander, and we came across something quite a bit different. Now, we just had a kookaburra in the background there, and suddenly, poor Maggie's overrun by some of these pesky parrots. We're just going down to do some filming about the Tasmanian devils, actually. But what's happening here, Maggie? These are our endemic green rosellas.
Yeah, so these guys know exactly where the snacks are. They hang around every day. We see them all the time. Now, these guys are a little bit hungrier than usual, just because it's getting a little bit chilly here in Tassie. So they're actually needing to eat a little more than usual. So these sunflower seeds are high in fatty acids, so supplies them with plenty of extra little snacks. So
is that there's one on top of your little phone camera there, on top of the tripod. Do you think it's going to take some footage itself?
Yeah, I hope so. Ooh.
Can you get that camera going, and we'll see if we can get a bit of double trouble here.
Let's see. Up here.
Hang on.
One there.
And my camera just wobbled because a parrot just landed on top of it. Oh, this is such fun.
Oh dear.
Okay. And in the background we've got some native hens as well. Look at this.
It's all happening.
It's all happening. It's total mayhem. And this is pretty much what happens very often here.
Well, we just got bombarded by some of our green rosella friends, but here we have John to tell us one of our Tassie devil stories.
We're on our way to film this little segment, and those parrots came in, those green rosellas. Once upon a time there used to be pests around here actually, because this was an apple and pear orchard, and we used to send apples away, but occasionally there was a little hole in the apples, and our consignments in Asia, when the apples arrived there, were downgraded. So what happened was that we had to make a decision. The culprits, of course, were the green rosellas nibbling at our apples in the orchard. So we made a decision. We got rid of the apple and pear trees and kept the rosellas, and that's the result. But anyway, look, that's not the point of this story, because I'm down here to tell you how long a Tasmanian devil lives, and there's no better place to do it than here, just at our Tasmanian Devil Cemetery. Look, this really is a place where we have buried Tasmanian devils. And we've been doing it here for years and years and years. We've run out of room now, because devils don't live very long. And that's the point of the story.
So just...
As you can see from this, TD, Tasmanian Devil, 1993 to 2000. And that's only about 6 or 7 years. And that's the lifespan of a Tasmanian devil. Now, just over here, we've got a little thing about the life cycle of the devil. Look, Tasmanian devils live only 5 or 6 years. It's a very short lifespan. Kangaroos live 10 or 15 years, wallabies 10 or 12 years, and poor Tasmanian devils, a 7-year-old devil's really old. So over the years, we've been here for 40 years. It's been quite traumatic at times, because we've had to say goodbye to many, many Tasmanian devils. If they only lived that long, 5 or 6 years, then obviously we've had a lot to pass through our hands here. We bred them in 1980. Nowadays we don't concentrate on breeding, we concentrate on conserving the local wild Tasmanian devils. And look, that's just one of the stories. Devils don't live very long, very short-lived animals, only about a half or a third of the lifespan of an equivalent sized dog. The most unusual creatures. Now, a key part of the Unzoo here is that we embrace the animals that live in the bushland and in the streams and in the ponds here. And Keira's been out with something really interesting. She's going to show you what's underwater with her underwater GoPro.
Hi, here I am where we store some food for the animals around the Unzoo. I'm just grabbing some food here, and what we're going to do today, I've got my GoPro with me, I've got a little bit of me, and we're going to go do something pretty interesting that I doubt any of you have seen before. Okay guys, now here we are at the ponds. These beautiful ponds were actually built by us about 15 years ago. This land was originally used as an apple and pear orchard. When we built these ponds, there was no animals in there. We now have galaxias, we have eels. Now the eels, something very special happened with them. These guys can go over land. So we have a creek off in the distance over here, and they obviously like the smell of the ponds over here. So what they did is when we had a rainy day, they came out of the creek and they came across the land and into these ponds. Now this is one of the boardwalks over our lovely ponds, and we're here to feed our friends the eels. Now these guys are wild, like much of the wildlife here at the Unzoo. You might wonder what they eat. Well, they can eat anything they find really. Fish, insects, tadpoles. We've got some meat for him here, which I'm about to prepare. You might be wondering what this contraption here is. Well, this is what we designed so that we could feed the eels for people who come and visit us to see. Now we are going to pop this in the water and just be a little bit patient, and we should hopefully see some eels come in. Now you may well be wondering why I've been carrying this chap around while I've been talking to you. Now if we point the camera down at our contraption here, you can actually see mostly just reflections. It's quite hard to see what's going on the camera. So what we're doing is we're going to pop this under the water as well and see what we can see. So just turn them on, and wow, look at that. We've got an eel coming. Now I'll tell you something pretty interesting about these creatures. They are living right now in our completely cut off ponds, and like I said, they come over from a creek when it's wet enough. They'll come in. When they get to adulthood, they will go over the land again on a wet day, back into the creek, which feeds into the ocean. They will then swim thousands of miles up the east coast from Tasmania to the Coral Sea, which is just off the coast of Queensland, where they will breed in the warmer waters. Now the first stage of the life cycle of the eel is, they're called glass eels. They are very, very small, completely transparent to avoid predators. As they make their way down the east coast, eating along the way, getting bigger and bigger, they make their way all the way down the Great Eastern Current. When they make it back to Tasmania, they have gotten quite a lot bigger. They are called elver. They are very long. They turn black so they can hide in the shadows down below. Now they will make their way to a creek opening, and they'll swim up the creek again to find these ponds they can live in. We don't really know how they find these bodies of water. We think it might have something to do with smell. So what they do then is they wait for a nice wet day, they hop up the bank, and they come over the land, down into the ponds, where they will live and continue to eat for years and years until they reach 1 kilo in weight. Now this can take anything from 10 to 35 years, and then they turn from elver into fully grown eels. Now the big question here is, what sorts of eels are we looking at? These guys are short-finned eels. They are found widely around southern Australia, and we have them here in the wild at the Unzoo, which is a big part of our philosophy here, to introduce you to the wild species we have living around this beautiful Tasmanian countryside.
Thanks, Keira. That's pretty fascinating stuff. It's the first time we've done that, actually. And by the way, look, both Maggie and Keira haven't done any of this before, so I think they're doing a fantastic job. Now, Maggie has got a range of cameras here, and she's been out and about, and she's spotted something, and so it's over to you, Maggie. I think we better call you the Devil Detective.
So here at the Unzoo we can see lots of different telltale signs that there's plenty of life around the place. One of those signs I spotted this morning, quite obvious, is this down here. This is a scat. Now what kind of scat might that be? This is actually a Tasmanian devil scat. So this is a wild devil that's come in, and you can see it's sort of a grey colour. There's a bit of fur in the scat there as well. So they are all signs of a Tasmanian devil scat due to their diet. So they consume everything. They consume all the fur as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to see if we can catch him on camera. So I've got one of my special infrared cameras. I'm going to set it up just in here and see if we can catch him in the act. So one of our other telltale signs is a bit of marking. Now this is a little more subtle to the untrained eye. So just down here on the decking here, you can see a bit of sort of a greasy mark around the place here. Now this is where I suspect he's been scooting around and marking his territory. So I might set the camera up just here on this post. All right, I've set it up at devil level, so about here. Now this is an infrared camera, so it can be set up for nighttime photography. So this will take lovely clear images at nighttime. Now we're here to check the camera and see what kind of images it took overnight. So basically this is triggered by a bit of movement. So anything that's come in here overnight will have had its photo taken. So basically we just take out the memory card, take this up to the computer, and we'll check out what's been happening overnight. Here we have the SD card that we set up last night. We're going to see what's been about overnight. Alrighty. Oh, here we are. We have some action. Despite what it looks like, that is actually an animal. Now, yes, so this is a big devil by the looks of it. He's coming in, having a sniff about. Nose is in the air. Something smells good there. Oh no, we know what he's smelling at. There's a possum up here, brush-tailed possum. Not happy about it. Not happy at all. You can see the possum's decided this isn't a good place to be. Really not happy. Bit more sniffing. And the possum's taken off. He's had enough. Doesn't think it's worth it. And I don't blame him, because I think this is the big boy that we see on our cameras throughout the peninsula. So he's really quite big. He's probably about 14 kilos or something ridiculous. He's having a bit more of a sniff. Wow. Look at that. Look at that gape. And off he goes. There we have it. I told you there was a devil around, didn't I?
And that's it for this week. Thank you so much for joining us. As we promised last time, we'd be showing you one of the wonderful sunsets around the coastline of Tasman Peninsula here. And just a couple of days ago, my wife Caroline and I took advantage of the reopening of the national parks after the COVID-19 shutdowns. And we went for a wander on a brand new track near Remarkable Cave, where there's a lookout over Crescent Bay, and you can climb a bump called Brown Mountain with fantastic lookouts over Cape Rail and Tasman Island and Cape Pillar, the highest coastal cliffs south of the equator, I think. And on the way back, we had this fantastic sunset. I think you'll agree it was worth the walk. We look forward to seeing you again next time. Thanks for joining us this time.